I gave everything to my son. My home, my business, my savings, my life's work. And do you know what he gave me in return? The kind of betrayal that cuts deeper than any knife. Not from an enemy, not from a stranger, but from the very blood I raised with my own two hands. If you are watching this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. My son, Michael, and his wife, Sophia. They thought I was old, weak, that I wouldn't notice their schemes, that I would quietly fade into the shadows while they took everything from me. But what they forgot is this: I am Richard Carter. I built everything they stand on. Every brick in these walls carries my sweat. Every penny in that business carries my sacrifice. And the day they tried to bury me was the day I buried them instead. I'm 60 years old, widowed, alone, except for my son. Life wasn't easy for me. I grew up poor. My father died when I was just 13 and I had to work nights while going to school during the day. By 18, I was already juggling 2 jobs just to keep food on the table for my mother and younger sister. That's when I learned something important. No one will hand you anything in this life. If you want something, you fight for it. You bleed for it. You sacrifice for it. And sacrifice? Oh, I knew sacrifice well. I never had a college education. Instead, I built my own path. I started small, a tiny corner shop that sold groceries. At first, it barely made enough to cover rent. But I worked every day from morning till midnight. I gave up sleep, gave up comfort, gave up friends and family gatherings. While others were resting, I was fighting to keep that shop alive. Slowly, painfully, it grew. What started as a corner store became a small business. What started as 1 shop became 3. I didn't have riches, no, but I had enough. Enough to build a decent life, enough to give my son a future I never had. Michael was my pride, my only child. My wife, God rest her soul, gave me the joy of being a father, and from the moment I held him in my arms, I swore that his life would never know the struggles mine did. When Michael was little, I used to carry him on my shoulders as I walked to the shop. He would laugh and tug at my hair, asking, "Dad, when will this shop be mine?" And I would smile and say, "One day, son, one day everything I have will be yours." And I meant it. Every word. Michael was everything to me. I poured my time, energy, and resources into him. Private school, new clothes, tutors, everything I could never dream of having as a child. When he wanted to go to university, I didn't hesitate. I worked longer hours, cut back on my own needs, and made sure the tuition was paid on time. When he wanted a car at 18, I sold one of my shops and bought it for him. It wasn't brand new, but it was enough. He was the happiest boy alive that day. And when he got married, oh, I was proud. I welcomed Sophia into our family like she was my own daughter. I thought, finally, our family is growing. I won't be alone anymore. But I was wrong. So very wrong. It started with small conversations. Michael would say, "Dad, you've worked hard your whole life. You should rest now." I thought it was love, care, concern. But slowly, the tone shifted. One evening, Michael sat me down. Sophia was beside him, her hand resting gently on his arm. "Dad," Michael began, "we've been thinking. It's time you put everything in my name. The house, the business, for the family's sake." I frowned. Why would I do that? I still run the shop. I still live in this house. Sophia leaned forward, her voice soft and sweet, but her eyes sharp. "Richard, it's not about control. It's about security. What if something happens to you tomorrow? Where would that leave us? The business could get tied up in courts. The house could be disputed. Don't you want your son to be safe? Don't you want your legacy protected?" And Michael added, "Dad, don't you trust me?" Those words, they pierced me. Don't you trust me? Of course I trusted him. He was my son, my blood, my only family. So, against my better judgment, I agreed. A week later, we sat in a lawyer's office. Michael looked excited. Sophia smiled brightly. I, however, felt a knot in my stomach. The lawyer explained the documents, sliding them across the polished wooden desk. The property deed, the business shares, everything that I had built, written down in black ink. My hand trembled as I picked up the pen, but Michael reached over, placed his hand on mine, and whispered, "It's okay, Dad. This is for family." So I signed. In that moment, I believed I was doing the right thing. I believed I was securing my son's future. I believed I was loved. But what I really did was hand them the keys to my destruction. And soon I would learn that love, when poisoned by greed, can turn into the sharpest betrayal of all. That was the day I unknowingly gave them the power to destroy me. But it was also the day I unknowingly set the stage for their downfall. At first, I tried to convince myself I had done the right thing. After the signing, Michael and Sophia were sweeter than ever. They brought me tea in the evenings, cooked my favorite meals, and asked me if I was comfortable. I thought, maybe I was foolish to doubt. Maybe this really is what family is supposed to feel like. But sweetness, when false, never lasts. One evening, I was sitting at the dinner table, waiting for them. Sophia placed my plate down with a loud clatter. No smile, no warmth, just silence. I asked softly, "Sophia, is something wrong?" She didn't even look at me. Nothing, just tired of cooking every day. Michael, my son, the boy I raised with my blood and sweat, he just nodded, chewing his food, saying nothing. That was the first time I felt invisible in my own home. The days that followed were filled with little moments, small cuts that, when added together, bled me dry. If I spoke, Sophia would sigh, roll her eyes. If I offered advice, Michael would say, "Dad, times are different now. You don't understand how things work anymore." When friends or neighbors visited, they spoke over me, as if my words carried no weight. I went from being the head of the family to being a shadow. And then came the night that shattered what little illusions I had left. I woke thirsty around midnight and went to the kitchen for a glass of water. As I passed their bedroom, I heard voices. The door was slightly open. Michael's voice, sharp and impatient. "Why is he still here? The house is mine now. The business too. Why should we keep taking care of him?" And Sophia's voice, dripping with venom. "Don't worry. Slowly we'll push him out. He won't even realize until it's too late." I stood frozen, the glass trembling in my hand. My chest ached so badly I thought my heart might burst. My son, my own blood, plotting to throw me out of the very house I built with my hands. That was the night my heart cracked in two. The next morning, I went to the shop. My sanctuary, the place where every brick, every shelf, every item told the story of my sacrifices. But when I walked in, it no longer felt like mine. There were new workers I had never seen before. My old chair was gone. The ledger I had kept for 30 years, missing. Michael came out of the back office holding papers, looking more like a boss than a son. "Dad, you shouldn't be here. You're old now. You should rest. Let me handle the shop." It wasn't love in his voice. It wasn't respect. It was dismissal, as if I were nothing more than an unwanted guest. I left that day with tears burning my eyes. But the worst humiliation came at a neighborhood gathering. We were sitting with neighbors in the garden, chatting about everyday life. Suddenly, Sophia spoke up loudly, her smile fake but her words cruel. "Richard doesn't need to worry about anything anymore. Michael and I are in charge now. He just eats and sleeps." The neighbors laughed politely, but I saw it. The pity in their eyes. The great Richard Carter, who once built everything with his own hands, reduced to a burden. That night, I cried silently in my room. Not because I had lost my house or my business, but because I had lost my son. My room became my prison. I ate alone. I sat alone. Even when we were in the same house, I felt like an outsider. They spoke in whispers. Doors shut quickly behind me. Laughter echoed from rooms I was not welcome in. I became a stranger in my own home. But what they didn't know was that I was not as helpless as they believed. The secret clause. When I had signed those papers, I had done something Michael and Sophia never suspected. I had added a clause, buried deep in the legal language, a clause that stated, if I was mistreated, neglected, or forced out of my home, the property would revert back to me. It was my safety net, my final defense, my last card. And now, they were giving me every reason to play it. But I needed proof. So I bought a small recorder. I slipped it under sofa cushions, behind doors, even in the kitchen where Sophia often let her temper slip. Every cruel word, every insult, every plan to get rid of me, I captured it all. Michael, once he's gone, we can sell this place and move somewhere bigger. Sophia, exactly. He'll be out soon enough. Old people don't last long anyway. Each word they spoke was another nail in their coffin. They thought I was weak, that I would bow down quietly. But with every day that passed, with every secret recording, I was preparing their downfall. They thought they were burying me, but really, they were digging their own graves. I placed a small recorder on the table. I pressed play, and the living room filled with their voices. Michael's voice. Why is he still here? The house is mine now. The business too. Why should we keep taking care of him? Sophia's voice. "Don't worry. Slowly, we'll push him out. He won't even realize until it's too late." Sophia's face turned pale. Michael's jaw tightened. I leaned forward, my eyes never leaving theirs. "Every word you've spoken, every insult, every plan, every cruel whisper behind closed doors, I have it all." Before they could react, I pulled out another folder. Thick papers, bound neatly, stamped by the lawyer. "Do you remember the day we signed the papers?" I asked quietly. "Do you remember the lawyer reading through the agreement?" Michael's brow furrowed. "What are you talking about?" I slid the folder across the table. "Read the fine print," I said. He snatched the papers and began flipping through them. His eyes scanned quickly, until suddenly they stopped, his face drained of color. Sophia leaned over his shoulder, her hands trembling as she read. Buried in the contract was the clause: if Richard Carter, the original owner, is mistreated, neglected, or forced out of his home, all property rights shall immediately revert back to him. Sophia's voice cracked. This can't be legal." I smiled coldly. "It's perfectly legal, and I have all the proof I need to show the court exactly how you've treated me." Michael dropped the papers onto the table, his face red with panic. "Dad, we didn't mean—" I cut him off. "You didn't mean to get caught." Sophia tried to soften her tone. "Richard, please, you misunderstood us. We were only worried about you. We thought—" I slammed my hand on the table. The sound echoed through the room. "Enough. Do you take me for a fool? I heard you with my own ears. I saw the way you looked at me. I felt every insult, every humiliation. You wanted me gone. And now, you'll be the ones leaving." I stood, walked to the door, and opened it. And there they were, our neighbors, standing silently. I had called them earlier, told them I needed witnesses. They had heard everything: the recorder, the confrontation, the lies unraveling. The humiliation burned Michael and Sophia like fire. Their heads hung low, shame twisting their faces. One neighbor shook his head. "We thought Richard was exaggerating, but to betray your own father like this? Shameful." Another muttered, "Some children don't deserve the parents they raised." Michael tried to speak, but no words came out. Sophia's eyes welled with tears, but I felt nothing. No sympathy, no pity. I looked at them both one last time. "You wanted everything I had. You thought you could steal it by betraying me. But in the end, you've lost it all. The house, the shop, my trust, my love, all gone." I turned to the neighbors, my voice firm. "They will leave this house tonight. The property is mine again, and from this day forward, they are no longer my family." The neighbors nodded, some even applauded quietly. Michael dropped to his knees. "Dad, please, don't do this. We're sorry. We were wrong." Tears streamed down Sophia's face. "Richard, give us one more chance. We'll change." I shook my head slowly. "No. You had your chance. You had every chance. And you chose greed over loyalty. You chose betrayal over love. And now, you'll live with the consequences." They thought they could bury me, but in truth, they buried themselves. That night, Michael and Sophia left the house. There was no shouting, no scene, just silence as they packed their things into bags. The neighbors watched from their porches, whispering in disbelief. How quickly fortunes can turn. As their car pulled away, I stood by the doorway. For a moment my heart twisted. I remembered Michael as a little boy, holding my hand, calling me Dad with so much love. But then I remembered his words. Why is he still here? Why should we keep taking care of him? And just like that, the ache hardened into resolve. The next morning, I visited my lawyer. We filed the papers to reinstate the property under my name. The look on the lawyer's face when he read the recordings was unforgettable. He said, "Mr. Carter, you were wise to protect yourself. Most parents trust blindly. You thought ahead." By the end of the week, it was official. The house, the shop, everything was mine again. And not because I craved power or wealth, but because I refused to let betrayal win. I rewrote my will. Where at once Michael was the heir to everything, now his name was struck through. Instead, I left the property to charity, an orphanage that cared for children abandoned by their families. I built this with love, I told the lawyer. And if my own blood does not value it, then let it go to those who will. It wasn't revenge out of anger. It was justice born of clarity. A few weeks later, Michael came back, alone this time. His shoulders slumped, his face worn. "Dad," he whispered, standing at the door, "please, give me one more chance." I stared at him for a long time. My heart, despite everything, wanted to forgive. But then I thought about the laughter behind closed doors, the way he looked at me like a burden, the way Sophia smirked as they plotted. I shook my head slowly. "No, Michael. I gave you every chance, and you threw them all away. A father can forgive mistakes, but betrayal leaves scars that never fade." Tears welled in his eyes, but I closed the door, not with hatred, with finality. Life became quieter after that. I returned to the shop, not to work, but to sit in the corner and sip tea, watching loyal customers greet me with respect. I walked through the house not as a stranger, but as its rightful owner once again. And slowly, the pain began to heal, because I realized something important. Family is not always defined by blood. Family is defined by loyalty, love, and respect. If you give everything to your children, make sure you also teach them respect. Otherwise, you risk raising not heirs, but traitors. I gave my son my life, my property, my trust. He gave me betrayal. But betrayal is like a boomerang. It always comes back. Remember this: love your children, but do not blind yourself. Trust them, but protect yourself. Because sometimes the biggest enemies don't come from outside your walls. They come from within. They thought they could take everything from me, but in the end, they lost me. And that was the greatest punishment of all.